giving thanks for the Queen's 70-year reign, but Her Majesty is absent from the service at St Paul's Cathedral. After experiencing discomfort during yesterday's celebrations, the Queen was represented by Prince Charles, who was joined by other senior royals. During the service, tributes were paid to her unwavering sense of duty.
Thank you for staying the course. Thank you for continuing to be faithful to the pledges you made 70 years ago.
The service was also the first public appearance in the UK for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in 2 years. We'll have the latest from Windsor, where the Queen has spent the day. Also on the programme, 100 days of war in Ukraine. President Zelensky praises his country's resistance against Russian forces.
The people of our state are here, defending Ukraine for 100 days already. Victory will be ours. Glory to Ukraine.
An impassioned plea from President Biden to tighten US gun laws in the wake of the mass shooting of primary school children in Texas. A fulsome apology from UEFA after the chaos that marred the Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid. It says no fan should have such a frightening and distressing experience at a match. And parades, parties and pride in Britain. How the country's celebrating this Jubilee bank holiday weekend. Hello, good evening and welcome to BBC News. A service of thanksgiving honouring the Queen's 70 years on the throne has taken place at St Paul's Cathedral in central London. Prince Charles represented his mother, who withdrew from the event after experiencing discomfort during yesterday's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. It's understood that the Queen watched the service from Windsor Castle. It's the first major royal event that Prince Harry and Meghan have attended since stepping back from official duties. Our first report is from our royal correspondent, Nicholas Witchell.
A service of thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral without the person for whose long years of public service those thanks were being offered. The Queen was absent, but other members of her family were present, as were political leaders and others. The Prime Minister had arrived with his wife to a mixed reception. There was a largely warm greeting for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, appearing together in public for the first time in Britain since they withdrew from royal life and moved to California more than 2 years ago. There have been well-documented family tensions since then, exacerbated by sharp comments by the Sussexes in interviews. But this was a day for the family to come together. Harry and Meghan made their way down the length of the central aisle in St Paul's to their seats with other members of the family. A family with which the couple have had only limited contact since they chose to leave Britain. With the Queen absent, it was the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall who processed through the cathedral to represent the Queen and lead the thanksgiving for her reign.
We come together in this cathedral church today to offer God thanks and praise for the reign of Her Majesty the Queen, and especially for her 70 years of faithful and dedicated service.
And it was that theme of public service that was at the heart of the event. The congregation included 400 members of NHS staff and other key workers from around the country. But it was the service of one person over 70 years that was highlighted. In his sermon, the Archbishop of York recalled one of the Queen's principal private interests.
We all know that the Queen likes horse racing. And Your Majesty, I'm rather assuming perhaps you're watching this on the television. And I'm afraid I don't have any great tips for the derby tomorrow. But with endurance, through times of change and challenge, joy and sorrow, you continue to offer yourself in the service of our country and the Commonwealth. Your Majesty, we are sorry that you're not here with us this morning, but we are so glad that you are still in the saddle, and we are glad that there is still more to come.
There was an act of commitment led by young people from all the countries of which the Queen is head of state.
Rejoicing in the life and reign of Elizabeth our Queen.
And finally, a service of thanksgiving for a monarch who is showing the signs of her 96 years, concluded with the national anthem. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
And let's join our correspondent Helena Wilkinson at Windsor tonight. So Helena, the Queen absent from the service today, but are we going to see more of her over the weekend?
It's possible, Anita, but nothing is definite. We did hear from the palace earlier on that the Queen will not be going to the Epsom Derby tomorrow. Not a surprise, given her mobility issues that we've heard about, but a big disappointment for the Queen, given her love of horse racing. And it was touched on, as we've just heard in Nicholas's report there, in the service at St Paul's Cathedral earlier today. Until the pandemic, the Queen has only missed 2 Derby days during her reign, but she will see it on the television here at Windsor Castle, and we expect Princess Anne to represent officially the Queen tomorrow. In terms of the weekend ahead, well, lots of big events still planned. We've got that star-studded music event tomorrow at the Palace, and we've heard in the last few moments that both Prince Charles and Prince William will be speaking separately at the end of the event tomorrow evening. On Sunday, millions of people expected to take place for the big Jubilee lunch, and then we've got that big pageant parade through central London. The Palace will be hoping that we will get to see the Queen once more, perhaps a final balcony appearance, but it all depends, of course, on how the Queen is feeling. Anita.
Helena, thank you very much. It's 100 days since Russia began its invasion of Ukraine. President Zelensky marked the occasion by praising the country's resistance and assuring Ukrainians they would emerge victorious. But he's admitted Russia now controls 1/5 of his country, that nearly 14 million people have been forced to flee, and that thousands of civilians have been killed. On the ground, Vladimir Putin's focus is now on the Donbas region in the east, where his forces continue to make gains. The key city of Severodonetsk is now largely under Russian control. Our international correspondent Orla Guerin has been with Ukrainian troops near Bakhmut, one of the next towns in Russia's path.
A dirt track that leads to a grinding war. We're in Donbas, the key battleground. The Russians are 2 miles down the road. This area around Bakhmut is still in Ukrainian hands for now. But the enemy is approaching from 2 sides. Troops prepare to face one more day of war. Seasoned veterans, tempered by fire. They've been fighting Russian-backed separatists here in the east since 2014. Among them, Anton. Well, we just had to take more cover, get more protection inside our armoured car. There was an incoming attack. The troops say it was a cluster bomb and it landed less than a mile away. Now, in the last half an hour or so, there have been constant warnings about incoming fire. We've had to run and take cover. The troops have taken cover. And we've heard plenty of outgoing fire. It's very clear the war in this area is extremely active. And the Russians are trying hard to push forward. And as Ukrainian forces try to hold their ground, the trenches turn to graves. Have you lost many friends?
Да,
Yes, says Ivan.
довольно много.
Quite a lot.
Довольно много.
And he says the Russians have already captured an area half the size of Italy.
Половину Италии захватили.
Troops here say President Putin's men learned lessons from their defeat outside Kyiv. Anton tells me they changed their tactics and now rely on massive artillery fire. Once again, it was coming our way. And as the Russians advance, civilians flee from towns and cities here. It's now 100 days, and counting, of wrenching separations. Vladimir Putin calls this liberation. If he succeeds here, his ambitions may not stop at Ukraine. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Donbass.
Following its offensive in the east, it's thought Russia wants to push south and west. President Putin's forces tried this in March and failed. But Russian control here would cut off vital access to the Black Sea coast, and it's feared they may try again. Laura Bicker reports now on the battle for the south of Ukraine from the key port city of Mykolaiv.
The farewell scenes have become agonisingly familiar. Ludmila holds her children for as long as she can, trying to put a brave face on it. I'll see them again when the bombs stop, she tells me. But no one knows how long that will be.
We've been hearing quite a few thuds in the distance, but in theory this village should be out of range for now. The Ukrainians have already pushed the Russians out of this city once. The fear is they're going to have to do it again, and that's why many people have made the decision to leave.
They are fleeing a war of rockets and artillery. A cruise missile tore through the regional administrative building in March, killing 36 people. This rubble is a reminder that Mykolaiv is key to Russia's strategy to seize the entire southern coast. The wail of the siren, a prelude to yet another exchange of firepower. For Ukraine, holding the line here is crucial.
If Mykolaiv was defeated, but it wasn't, they could have chance to move forward to Odessa, move forward to Kryvyi Rih, to the center of Ukraine.
Life has become increasingly difficult. Water is a precious resource. Supplies were cut off after Russia seized the neighbouring city of Kherson. But many are choosing to stay. This may be a Kremlin target, but it's also home. And their president is keen to provide some reassurance.
The people of our state are here, defending Ukraine for 100 days already. Victory will be ours. Glory to Ukraine.
We travel the path of Russia's retreat to the south of Mykolaiv. Nearly half this village have returned after the invading forces were pushed back, but most are reliant on aid. This place is for children to play, not for shells to explode, Natalia tells me. She planted flowers in the bomb craters.
Thank God we're holding on. Sometimes I'm very scared that they might just kidnap me and take me away. On the other hand, I am sure, and I keep telling this to everyone else, that they have no business here. They should know better than loitering on our land.
Natalia tells me that when I leave, she'll sit down and cry. She's lived 100 days in both defiance and dread. Russian tanks have been at her door once. She's determined they will not be back.
And let's join Laura now in Mykolaiv. Laura, 100 days into this war and President Zelensky is as defiant as ever. But what are the signals coming from President Putin?
Well, first of all, Anita, I should warn you that we're keeping it quite in the dark here, and I'm keeping my voice low because we are under strict curfew here. We're about 30 kilometres from the front line, and within the last 24 hours there has been a warning that this area could come under increasing air attacks. But there is a reason why this region is so important, such a linchpin for Vladimir Putin, because it would give him complete access to the Black Sea. 80 miles east of here is Odessa, Ukraine's largest civilian port. If Mykolaiv fell, it might give Vladimir Putin's forces a road to Odessa and to completely block off the Black Sea. Now, we've already seen problems exporting grain, and today Vladimir Putin said that this was a Western myth and that he wasn't blockading exports of Ukraine's grain. And he said that there was an offer from Belarus to export grain through there. But when it comes to the 100 days of war, I think what you've seen in my report there is that there is real emotion here, that there is beginning to be a feeling of war fatigue, that people are struggling to kind of comprehend what is happening and how long this is going on for. I think the other thing to say is they are worried that the West, due to problems with grain, due to fuel prices, might lose interest, might lose support for Ukraine. But what is definitely not waning in this country is determination. And when I spoke to the governor today, when it came to the idea that Russian forces may come here, he said they shall not pass.
Laura, thank you very much. Laura Bicker reporting. President Biden has made an impassioned plea for Congress to impose stricter gun laws following a string of mass shootings in the United States. Speaking from the White House, he said that guns are now the #1 killer of children in America. Nomia Iqbal reports from Washington.
As President Biden walked to the podium, 56 candles burned behind him, each representing victims of gun violence in all US states and territories. He said everyday places in America were now killing fields, and enough was enough.
And let there be no mistake about the psychological trauma that gun violence leaves behind. Imagine being that little girl, that brave little girl in Uvalde, who smeared blood off her murdered friend's body onto her own face, to lie still among the corpses in her classroom and pretend she was dead in order to stay alive.
This comes after President Biden visited Uvalde in Texas and met the families of the school children and teachers murdered in their classroom. Previously, he had visited Buffalo in New York, where 10 people were shot dead last month in a supermarket. On Wednesday, 4 people were shot dead at a medical center in Oklahoma. Some swift action is happening. House Democrats have voted for a bill of tougher gun restrictions, which would take into account many of Mr. Biden's proposals. But Republicans are against this move. Some even brought their own guns to the meetings about the bill.
Here's a gun I carry every single day to protect myself, my family, my wife, my home. This is a XL 6-hour P365. Comes with a 15-round magazine. Here's a 7-round magazine.
This is why gun reform in America is difficult. Senate Republicans need to be on board for any laws to be passed. They think any restrictions threaten American people's constitutional right to own guns. So far, the only area of possible bipartisan agreement involves red flag laws, which let authorities take guns from people at high risk of harming themselves or others. 19 states have them. But critics say that just doesn't go far enough to stop America's unique nightmare of enduring gun violence. Nomi Iqbal, BBC News, Washington.
At least 4 people have been killed and 30 injured when a train derailed near an alpine resort in southern Germany. Among the injured were children returning home from school. The incident happened just after the train left Garmisch-Partenkirchen for Munich. The cause isn't clear. A committee of MPs has warned the Ministry of Defence it should either scrap or fix its controversial Ajax armoured vehicle programme by the end of the year or risk compromising national security. The MOD signed a contract for nearly 600 of the American-made reconnaissance vehicles, which were due to enter service in 2017. But so far none have been operationally deployed, and the project has already cost £3 billion. UEFA, European football's governing body, has issued a fulsome apology tonight to Liverpool and Real Madrid fans caught up in the ticketing chaos that marred the Champions League final last weekend. Our correspondent Greg Mackenzie is with me. So Greg, almost a week on from that final, tell me more about what UEFA is saying.
Well, that's right, Anita. Now, Liverpool fans described it as heavy-handed policing, organisational chaos and overcrowding at last weekend's Champions League final. Now, police used tear gas and pepper spray. It's also emerged that some supporters had been targeted by local gangs. Families had been split up with young children. Now, the French authorities and UEFA have blamed late arrivals and fake tickets for the scenes outside the Stade de France, which caused the match to be delayed by half an hour. Now, UEFA has tonight sincerely apologised to all fans affected by the chaos and has issued a statement, and it simply reads, UEFA wishes to sincerely apologise to all spectators who had to experience or witness frightening and distressing events in the build-up to that game last Saturday on a night which should have been a celebration of European club football. It goes on to say that no football fan should be put in that situation and it must not happen again. Now, meanwhile, tonight, the French President, Emmanuel Macron, has said that he wants every fan that had a ticket and was unable to get into the stadium to be reimbursed. And even tonight, Liverpool legend Kenny Dalglish has said that, yes, the apology is a start, but he says there was still a long way to go.
Greg, thank you very much. Greg Mackenzie. Horse racing, and Ryan Moore rode Tuesday to victory in the Oaks on the opening day of the Epsom Festival. The favourite, Emily Upjohn, slipped at the start. She and jockey Frankie Dettori made up ground to cross the line in a photo finish, but Tuesday just took it to give trainer Aidan O'Brien a record 41st British Classic triumph. Cricket now, and England face an uphill battle to win the first test after New Zealand built an imposing lead on the second day at Lord's. After 17 wickets fell yesterday, the pattern continued with New Zealand 56 for 4 at one stage. But an unbroken fifth wicket pairing added 180 runs to move the visitors on to 236 for 4 at the close, a lead of 227, as Joe Wilson reports.
At Lord's, they don't wait for the end of the match to start the champagne. Corks collect steadily, daily. But to push for victory, England had to do it this way, taking quick early wickets in New Zealand's second innings. After James Anderson, Matthew Potts continued his impressive start to international cricket. That's the New Zealand captain he dismissed again. Here's a faint brush on Tom Latham's bat, and that, yep, was New Zealand 35 for 3. And another. Devon Conway hit that.
And Conway walks.
56 for 4. The match at that stage still frenetic.
Well, surely someone would hang around out there. Some batter had to make runs. I mean, logic suggested it. The very traditions of Test cricket almost demanded it.
Here's how New Zealand did it and how the match changed. Daryl Mitchell always looked to attack within reason. Tom Blundell batted with increasing assurance. Being World Test champions brings a certain certainty. The partnership between these two is strong and still building. And with every minute there at the crease, the match moves definitely one way, towards New Zealand. Matt Parkinson bowled his leg spin, having arrived via motorways as England's concussion replacement. No joy for him. New Zealand 4 wickets down, 227 ahead, and England's new captain with some familiar England problems. Joe Wilson, BBC News at Lord's.
Let's return now to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations as the second day of the bank holiday draws to a close. Yes, in case you've forgotten, it is Friday. As we mentioned earlier, there's still a whole weekend of Jubilee celebrations ahead, including a big concert at Buckingham Palace tomorrow night and then a pageant on the Mall on Sunday. Our royal correspondent Sarah Campbell reports.
She breathes!
On an East End factory site next to the Thames, a dragon has come to life. Gliding up the Mall, the giant puppet will symbolise the enormity of the role taken on by the young Princess Elizabeth, played by dancer Janice Ho.
She has this sense of freedom at the beginning, but then she meets the dragon, and then how she deals with that. Is there like a sense of fear, or how she sort of like play with it and become friends with it?
And how excited are you to be playing Princess Elizabeth in the pageant?
Oh, I'm really, really excited. I mean, this is such a big opportunity.
Around 10,000 people are involved. There'll be dancers, costumes, vehicles and much else. All telling the story of the Queen and the UK as it's changed throughout her reign. Riding on open-topped buses decorated with images from the last 70 years, famous faces from each decade, including the double gold medalist from the 2004 Olympics, Dame Kelly Holmes.
It's just amazing to be one of the, I think, 150 national treasures. It's a weird thing for you to say personally, but it means a lot to be part of it.
Children will play a big part. These pupils from Luton will be dressed as the flowers which decorated the Queen's coronation gown.
I'm very excited. I'm nervous, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime dream.
She's been on the throne 70 whole years. That's a lot. And, you know, I'm very proud of her. She's done an amazing job. She's a very good queen.
Leading the pageant along the Mall, the Gold State Coach. It transported the Queen on Coronation Day, and images from 1953 will be shown on its windows.
Hey everyone, I'm Ed Sheeran, and I'm going to be playing at the Queen's Jubilee pageant on Sunday, the 5th of June at the Mall. I'll see you there. Lots of love.
And the night before Ed Sheeran takes to the stage, Buckingham Palace will provide the backdrop to the likes of Duran Duran, Diana Ross, George Ezra and...
I was 7 when she came to the throne, so she's always been part of my life, you know, and the fact that I've met her on several occasions makes it even more important for me.
The stage is set. Queen, the band, will open party at the Palace tomorrow night. Thousands will be watching here, millions more will be watching from home as this Jubilee weekend continues. Sarah Campbell, BBC News, on stage at Buckingham Palace.
And apart from those official celebrations taking place, many people up and down the country have been holding their own parties to mark the Jubilee and enjoy the bank holiday, as Paul Murphy has been finding out.
Welcome to our Jubilee party. Welcome to Brixie Street. It's the only street in Preston that's as friendly as we are.
The party is starting in this neighbourhood in Preston, as it is in communities across the UK.
And I just want to pray a prayer of blessing on Brixie Street, because it's a great place to live.
This one even gets a blessing from the local vicar.
This is a great community in that it's so multicultural. We have people from many different faiths living alongside one another and really getting on well with each other, as today shows.
There was dancing in the street in Portadown in Northern Ireland.
Oh, it's lovely after COVID. It's really nice to see a wee event and everybody can get together.
And dancing around the Maypole in Poppleton, North Yorkshire. Britain Ferries Community Fun Day in South Wales didn't skimp on the costumes.
Our winner.
And it was getting competitive at St Erth in Cornwall. There is the recognition that this really is a once-in-a-lifetime celebration, a day in the sun that will live long in the memory. There were burgers in Bradford and mobile patrols in Glasgow. Every community has had its own interpretation of how best to mark this day.
Most Jubilee parties are actually taking place on Sunday, but this street, like so many others, simply couldn't wait. Thinking about the Queen here a lot?
Yeah, definitely. Today it's all about the Queen and how she's served us for 70 years, and she's done a great job at that.
The rising cost of living means some can ill afford to party. But despite this, perhaps because of it, these celebrations have been hugely energetic, and they'll continue throughout the weekend. Paul Murphy, BBC News, Preston.
And there's more throughout the evening on the BBC News channel. Now on BBC One, it's time for the news where you are. Goodbye.